The best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick your tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
Welcome back, DFS Army. We are looking back at Week 5 MME and Millie Maker review specifically. Feeling a little under the weather this week, so if I sound like Chris Collinsworth, just bear with me. But yeah, hope y'all did great last week. I know DFS Army did. We'll get into that. But let's take a look back at Week 5 for the Millie Maker. All right, so I write this over at dfsarmy.com, my write-up. We'll get into that real quick, but let's look at the lineup actually on DraftKings. So this past week, we saw another high score, pretty high score, about the 250 range. So what was crazy about this lineup is there was a skinny primary stack, Josh Allen and Gabe Davis. It smashed, but the biggest stack was Leonard Fournette, Cade Otton, and Chris Godwin in the same game with no Tom Brady. So basically, this was one of those rare instances where you don't stack two pass catchers with the quarterback. So pretty much if you had your optimizer set to not stack two pass catchers with the quarterback, you wouldn't have been able to get this lineup in the domination station. So it was definitely an outlier. And I think the reason why that works in this situation is you have a Cade Otton who's only 2,500. So when they're cheaper, not everyone needs to score a ton of points to get there. So you don't need to have them stacked with the quarterback in an instance like this, especially one of them being Leonard Fournette, who can get there on his own as a running back. So that was the biggest stack, Fournette, Godwin, and Cade Otton as far as players. But from overall production point standpoint, Josh Allen was the stack with Gabe Davis, no bringbacks. I talked about this earlier in the week. I'm sure Geek went over this in the Players Club. This is the type of game you could target where you can do a team stack because they had a high implied team total. They were going to just blow out the Steelers, and they did. So you don't force bringbacks. So whether you were stacking, Allen with Diggs or, Allen with maybe Diggs and Shakir, whoever it may be. In this case, Allen and Gabe Davis, you keep the stack skinny, no bringbacks. So that's what took down the Millie. And, we've seen this quite a few times actually this year. Lamar to Andrews and obviously here with the Bills. So the other couple smash plays were Alvin Kamara. And really, if he'd not gotten, vultured by Taysom Hill, he probably could have had a 30 to 40 point game. Alvin Kamara still did quite well, though, 27 points. And then we had, there was no other stack. So we had a Lockett. No, I'm sorry, Alvin Kamara and Lockett. That was the other stack in that game. So we had three stacks of two stacks of two players and then one stack of three players. So 7 players total. So there was a lot of stacking, just, not heavy, thick stacks. So the smash play that really set this lineup apart was Breece Hall, 9.6% ownership, 5,400. He scored 30 points. And then this is something we don't see very often is the Dallas Cowboys D just being very chalk, 22%. You rarely see a chalk defense like that in the Millie Maker. So 44 points smashed. And yeah, I think I want to say we'll look at it, but I think he only had one lineup with this. So Now, this is a write-up. We'll go over to DFS Army. I do each and every week at DFSArmy.com. If you're not following me on Twitter, give me a follow at FantasyFling. As I tweet this out every week right after I write it. And of course, DFS Army does as well. So what a few of the things that I look at when I do the Millie Maker review is I'm going to look at stacking. I'm going to look at ownership, player pricing, value, and leverage plays and ceiling. And I do this write up each week because it really helps see not only where things are going, where they're trending, but we can use that and we can also look at it from past years and see if things are still going a certain way or if they're heading a different way. So as far as stacking, we had a primary stack of Allen, Davis, 74 points. The secondary stacks, Fournette, Godwin, and Otten, that was 58.5 points. And then Kamara and Lockett, finally, at 57.8 points. So a total stack of 190 points, 7-player average of 27 points, which this is really what you're looking for when you're trying to hit that 250-point GPP winning target. You need 27 points on average of each player across 9 roster positions. And by the way, I don't know if y'all can hear that dog. I'm traveling this week. There is a dog barking. I'm in a hotel. I don't know what that's about. Hopefully it'll stop. But anyways, so we go into ownership. And this is something that can be predicted when the chalk smashes. You're going to see higher ownership, right? So Leonard Fournette was chalky. And then obviously Kamara and and Chris Godwin, they were both chalky as well. But really, I think what sets it apart, because you will normally see, at least 1 to 2 players in the 20% range, like you do with Godwin here at 27%. But what really set it apart is the defense. Normally, you do not see a defense over 14% was the highest we saw last year. We saw 14% like twice, but most weeks it was 5% or under, and the average on the season was 7%. So when you have a 22% owned defense, this is obviously going to raise the overall ownership by a lot. The 95% that we normally see going to be quite a bit higher than that. So chalk smashes, that's what you're going to expect to see. So as far as leverage plays, though, Josh Allen was leverage over Brady, for example, who I played. A lot of people played Brady, even, a lot of top DFS pros, which we will see when we get into the MME portion of the show. But Josh Allen, 12%. He was leveraged on 22% on Brady as he scored 17 more points than him. And then Breece Hall, he was the 3rd highest scoring running back on the slate, but he was just an incredible value and leverage play as he was under 10% owned. He's 5,400, and there were a lot of chalkier plays that he outscored, like Cook, Chubb, Jeff Wilson, and Ramondre Stevenson. Gabe Davis, this is one of the plays I gave you if you play Yahoo as well. This is one of the leverage plays that I recommended last week, Gabe Davis. If McKenzie was out, I said play Gabe Davis. He's a smash play. We know what he's capable of as far as the ceiling, as we saw last year, and he showed it again this past week against the Steelers. So he smashed over 30 points, 7% owned. That's what we look for in leverage. Now, as far as pricing and value, you will continue to see no running backs, no wide receivers, price over 8K. So there were 2 pay down options in this lineup that allowed Millie Maker winner to afford the rest of the studs: Cowboys D and K Dotton. So K Dotton was 2,500. Cowboys D was 2,500 as well. So their textbook value plays in good matchups. They allowed a lot of salary relief and flexibility when constructing the rest of the lineup. So you were able to pay up for Josh Allen, of course, and then Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara, Gabe Davis. These 3 all average about 6,600. But and which is expensive when you pair that with Josh Allen. But again, when you pay 2,500 at defense and 2,500 for K Dotton, and 5,400 for Breece Hall, that's a lot of salary savings, so you could afford those guys in the 6 to 7K range at skill positions like running back and wide receiver, and then pay up for Josh Allen. So very good stuff. And then, one thing to keep in mind though, when I talk about this, you typically don't see running backs in the 8 to 9K range and wide receivers. Now, there are exceptions though, and when extreme value hits a slate, you could pretty much probably disregard that trend. If extreme value hits a slate and you have an 8 to 9K wide receiver that you can now afford, you could probably disregard that because you will tend to see from time to time your Cooper Kupps, your Jonathan Taylors, your Derrick Henrys, and so on and so forth. And then last, we had one scoring week. We have a 5-game average of 248 points. So it's something to always keep in mind when you're building your roster for the Millie Maker. Most weeks you have to score 250 points to win the Millie Maker. You can score 240 and not even finish in the top 10. So it's something you have to keep in mind when you're constructing your lineup. Does this lineup have the type of ceiling that can go off and score 250 points, but maybe even more than that sometimes, as we've seen 270, 284 just this year. So, and, I really think that lineup had that. And you have Josh Allen, Alvin Kamara, Leonard Fournette, Gabriel Davis, Godwin, and Lockett. These are guys who have all had massive games. So they definitely had that 250 point plus ceiling, and that's something we need to continue to look at for Millie Maker builds. Now let's go over to, we're going to do Fantasy Labs, of course, and we're going to look at the Millie Maker last week, and we're going to see what some top MME pros did as far as their strategy, what worked, what didn't work. All right. So we're going to try this again. But I came prepared as a backup because Fantasy Labs could be a little buggy from time to time. But you know what? It's free. It's a free service. I recommend everyone sign up for it because you can look at all these different exposures yourself and the strategy of MMA Pros for free. So I'm not going to complain because it's a free service. Now, if they're making me pay $30 a month for it, I'm certainly going to complain at that point. Okay. I think it's moving. It's going a little slow, but hopefully we can get through a couple pros here. So while that's going, we're going to go over to Chipotle Attic. We'll look at his top lineup. So he's a top pro, one of the top pros in the world that we're going to go over his MME strategy for. So we have Josh Allen, and really this was standard with a lot of the pros. Most of them weren't on Josh Allen and Gabriel Davis. It was really, a combo of Diggs and Shakir for the most part, which is why they didn't win the Millies. But Chipotle Addict still had a great week, plus 2,800. He had Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Shakir. And then he had Fournette, Dameon Pierce, who did pretty good, but didn't do nearly as well as Fournette. And then he also had Lockett, and Njoku, and DJ Moore, and then the Cowboys D. So pretty good lineup 217 points. Overall, his MME strategy, I believe he had a $2,800 day. So good. This finally did load. So yeah, he had Josh Allen, 58% exposure to him. He was big on Shakir, which was just a very sharp play. Once we knew, and DFS Army was all over this. Once we knew Isaiah McKenzie wasn't going to play, Shakir was a sharp play. So he had him. He had Jeff Wilson, who, he was chalk, but he was way over the field on him, 56%. Stephon Diggs, again, he was chalk 17%, but he was way over the field on him. So some really good plays. And then, this is how I know. Well, I mean, there's many reasons that I know, DFS Army just has some really, really sharp players, the Geeks and the Bobby Wows, DFS Up North and so on and so forth. Is Marcus Callaway is a guy who they mentioned, and a lot of the pros were on him. So Geek mentioned him in the Players Club. I didn't want to play him because I remember last year when Marcus Callaway was a chalk guy and he totally burned us. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not playing him. But the fact that a lot of pros were on him just goes to show that it was a sharp play. It just didn't work out. So, 32% exposure to him. And then, so he had quite a bit of exposure in that game with, Callaway and Olave and Lockett. So, Olave, he had 42% exposure as well. And then, some of the other guys, Dalvin Cook was heavy on him, Damian Pierce. So you could see why he had such a good day. 20, if you make $2,800 MME in the milli, you had a good day. So some of these top guys really came through for him. Lockett, Jeff Wilson, Stephon Diggs had 27 points. So pretty good day for Chipotle Addict, who's had a couple really good weeks. And, side note, in fact, look at McLovin here and Chipotle Addict. I never knew that the 100-person tournaments that MME pros played into those tournaments until I was looking up at the leaderboards this week. And I think I finished like 12th in the 100-person tournament. And I look at the top 10, and McLovin and Chipotle Addict are playing in these 100-person, like $5 tournaments. So I'm like, what are these freaking MME pros doing in these tournaments? And apparently McLovin was playing a bunch of them this week because he always MMEs the Millie Maker, and he decided to only put one bullet in this week. Well, it ended up working out for him as he made $749 off of one entry. He had a lineup that he felt really good about, clearly, and it was almost good enough to win the Millie. So pretty funny to see an MME guy only put one lineup in the Millie and almost win it. So Josh Allen. And what was crazy about this lineup too, looking at this again, he didn't have a stack with Josh Allen. He just ran him out there naked. Now, he had several other stacks. He had Fournette, Godwin. He had Lockett, Olave. So, there were other stacks. And then he also had Higbee and Dallas D. But he just ran Josh Allen out there by himself. And what a lineup. What a lineup. All right. So what I've been trying to do a little more the past couple weeks is focus on DFS pros who have had some really good weeks, because the start of the season, it was just, they all had a negative ROI. But some of these guys have had a really good past couple weeks. So Giant Squid, top 5 pro, he had a $1,500 ROI. And his top lineup scored 213 points, and he had Josh Allen, Diggs, and Gabriel Davis. So this was it. He was able to stack Diggs and Davis and Allen, which seems very expensive, and Delvin Cook. So you can do that by playing really cheap minimum price players. Bates 2,600, Callaway 3,300, Dallas D 2,500. So just great lineup. With that stack, he obviously had Lockett and Marquez Callaway as well, and then just Jeff Wilson and Dalvin Cook as a one-off, and same with Bates. So really good lineup for him. We won't go into his exposures. Oh, okay, never mind. I'm thinking of McLovin. I was going to say because he only had one lineup, but yeah, Tyler Lockett, 100%. That's crazy to see that much exposure to any one player. I do it often, but every time I do it, I'm just ready to tilt because I know that player is going to get hurt in the first quarter, which is like what happened with David Montgomery a few weeks ago. So Tyler Lockett, 100%. Alvin Kamara, 50%. They obviously smashed again, Marquez Callaway. So Higbee's gotten a ton of targets lately. That's a great play. 39%. Buffalo D, 31%. Obviously didn't work out kind of how you hoped it would work out when you pay all the way up, but the matchup was right, and we do pay up in large field GPPs. I wouldn't pay all the way up. I would never pay to 4,000 plus, but we've seen a lot of times the average salary for a GPP winner for the Millie Maker is $3,000. So that was constant in 2020 and 2021. To start this year, we have some down pricing. It's been in the 2,500s. So we'll see how that changes the rest of the year. Will it regress to the mean, what it's been, or will it stay the same? I don't know. I guess we'll see. So a lot of Olave, Jeff Wilson, everyone was on Jeff Wilson, and he was a great play. So it makes sense. And then you will get some interesting plays. Davis Mills, 10%. That's quite a bit of exposure to have to a guy like Davis Mills, who isn't very good. Tyreek Hill, 17%. Teddy, obviously, it might have been a much better day for Giant Squid if Teddy had a decent game. At 14% exposure, I mean, he got 0 points, so he got hurt right away. Devin Singletary, this is a kind of a play. You think that Buffalo's going to get up early and Devin Singletary is going to get a lot of carries. This was a good play. It just didn't work out. I had quite a bit of exposure to him as well. So, and then OJ Howard, this is really what killed a lot of people. A lot of pros had a lot of exposure to OJ Howard. All things considered, 11% to a tight end is kind of a bit. But yeah, he had 0 points. So considering he made $1,500 and had Teddy with 0 points and OJ Howard with 0 points, pretty damn good. He did have 17% to Josh Allen. So, some of the better plays, obviously, that he had. Breece Hall, you will see most of the pros, they were in on Breece Hall. And he just projected well. And it's one of those things where sometimes we just need to follow the projections as opposed to, I don't like the game script. They're going to be trailing, blah, blah, blah. Specifically, like a guy like Breece Hall, he's a receiving running back. So game script wouldn't affect him as much as it would other running backs. And he smashed anyway. The Jets won the game, had a great game. And then Ramondre Stevenson, so 22% as well. So last one I want to look at now, according to Roto Grinders, this guy is one of the top DFS pros as well. Football is currently a top 5. Now, this is what it's like for most MME players. You're going to lose a lot. But yeah, Tom Brady and a Fournette, and you can kind of see like why this didn't get here. Now, Tom Brady has got there with Fournette before, but when Fournette's getting multiple touchdowns and Brady's not really throwing that many touchdowns, Brady, Fournette, Mike Evans, it's just not going to get there. As you saw, Fournette got there, but Brady and Evans did not get there. Because to win the millie, you got a 4 to 5 extra salary. And this just didn't quite do it. So Brees Hall, again, great play. Cooper Kupp is always good for 20, 25 points, but at his salary, 9,600, that's not tournament winning. Jacoby Myers was a great play, 4,800. And then this was kind of surprising, is flexing a tight end. Normally, most weeks it won't work out because there's a lot of variance. Now, it has won the Millie Maker before, but it's normally like, when it did, I think it was a Gronk / Kittle type week, or Gronk / Goddard. So not quite there with Irv Smith. But as far as user exposures, big on Tyler Higbee. And then we continue to see Fournette, 31%, Lockett. So all the sharps ran on Lockett. And one of the reasons for this is Seattle, and we'll continue to see this, and this is why we're going to target this game this week, is Seattle. They have a very poor defense, but Geno's playing very well, and they have a lot of weapons. They had Penny. He's hurt now. They got Walker. They have Lockett. They have Metcalf. They've had those guys for years, 2 studs. Russell Wilson is certainly missing. But anyways, they have these weapons and they don't have the defense, so they have to score. And Geno's playing very well. So this is why a lot of pros are targeting these players, specifically Lockett, because his price is so good and it never seems to climb, and it's still cheap again this week. So we're going to be all over it. Alvin Kamara, 6,600. Chris Godwin, heavy on Godwin, heavy on the Tampa Bay game, but there just wasn't enough scoring in that game outside of Leonard Fournette. And then, again, we talked about O.J. Howard. It's hard to win money if you have 16% exposure to a guy who got 0 points. Brees Hall really saved the day for him, 20% exposure. And, he still lost $1,000, but he entered 3,000 into the millie. It could be a lot worse. Brandon Cooks had a pretty bad day as well. So Chris Olave, and obviously, as we saw with the Lockett stacks, that was kind of a good ping pong there between those two. But anyways, I think that's going to do it. Thank you for joining. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and do all the things. And of course, we will be back next week to do another MME and DraftKings review, as we do in each and every week. I wish you all the best luck in your GPPs, and obviously I'll look out this week for tournament tactics when we got the tournament goats this week at each and every week as they look at GPP tournament tactics. So keep an eye out for that, and good luck this week. We'll see y'all next week.